Hey, it's your old pal Slim, and this is 70mm, a podcast for film lovers. Every Monday, I'm joined by famous artist Danny Haas. And spiritual advisor Alexis.
Jenna was in the room with me and she was just on her iPad. But I said, Jenna, put the iPad down and look at this man's body.
And together as friends forever, we discuss recently watched movies. We're closing out Shame Month this episode with the OG 1933 King Kong. Is this a historic technical achievement in film or problematic slop? Let's find out now. And 2 weeks in a row, I'm starting off with an announcement.
Gosh.
Never been done. But we've long been asked, when are we going to have international shipping for prints on our web store, vhsvillage.com? A lot of people want to buy Danny's beautiful prints, frame them up, and they're international. And up until now, Danny said, it's not in the cards, babe. But now it is. It's official. International shipping on prints. Danny, how do you feel? It's finally coming to fruition after all this time.
It feels good. It's hard shipping overseas.
Tell me about
Expensive. And
I don't know how people do it.
fees and customs and taxes, and I don't like it very much.
I couldn't believe that you, of all people, were able to get 20 postmaster generals from around the world on a Zoom together.
Yeah.
To get this figured out.
We did. And
Dedication.
we got it done.
It's like Charlie from It's Always Sunny when he's in front of the board and he's got his hands up.
Yeah,
you know, the strings with the pins. That's Danny figuring out international shipping for prints.
I did it.
His eyes are bloodshot right now.
And just a reminder, if you're a patron, you get 20% off of prints. Actually, not just prints, everything. So if you've been sitting waiting to join our Patreon, $4 a month, discount on merch, join our fabulous Discord, which had some amazing discussions this week about King Kong, our feature prezzo. Let's see, I forgot to update my list of new friends, but I believe this is the official list. Logan, Omar, Marcus, Eric, Jeff, and Devin joined this week.
Goodness.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
They're here.
There's been some buzz on Twitter about a certain movie that was disparaged last week. I wanted to get into it real briefly.
Oh, okay.
Shrek.
People still talk about that movie?
People still talking about Shrek.
Oh, interesting.
The Shrek. There's just a picture of Shrek that Gabe just posted. It's not moving for me, so it just looks very sad. A lot of love for Shrek back in the day, but come to find out that Danny has given Shrek a 0.5 star on letterboxd.com.
You know, and that was day one starring. So that would be a BLB rating, and I'm never changing it.
Wow.
Never going back.
I'm never going back.
Pardo, what are your thoughts on Shrek, the trilogy, and the first one?
There's 3?
Oh, yeah. At least 3.
Jeez.
At least. Then there was the cat with the boots spinoff.
There's 4, Marcy says.
Cat in boots. There's 4?
I remember not really caring for Shrek when it came out. The jokes were a little not my style. Okay.
Thank you.
And then of any animated movie, it just looks awful now. The animation, it has aged very poorly.
Donkey.
So,
Matt, please.
I don't see any reason to return.
Is there a 4K release of Shrek planned? Maybe we go back. Maybe there's like a special edition where DreamWorks heads back into the studio, cleans it up a bit, and we go back.
It won't happen, Matt.
All right, I put in the old college try for Shrek. There's one thing I will say about Shrek. Last time we went to Disney a couple years ago, we went to Universal. We usually try to have like a day or two in Universal as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just because it was 120 real feel. We went into the Shrek ride to not die in the sun. That is the worst.
You would rather have died in the sun?
I would have rather had heat stroke than sit in the queue line for the Shrek ride. Listen, it's just like some guy telling bad jokes for 40 minutes before you even get in the ride. I don't even remember what the ride was. I wanted to die.
You know what that replaced, Matt? Hitchcock.
I couldn't believe it when I saw that on a random YouTube channel.
I'm heated now.
Pardo, have you ever been to Universal Studios?
No, never been to Universal. Never been to Disney World, Land, any of those.
Have you been to Florida?
I've been to, I've been to Florida. I was at.
You left the tri-state area?
Let him
what's it
speak.
called? I think I was in the northern part of Florida. I don't understand the geography of Florida at all.
Right.
I know there's a few big cities.
Is there?
I don't
what
know
is in your
locations.
mouth right now?
Nothing.
Oh, Lord.
What if? Let's just put pause on the chocolate happening right now in your mouth. But what if the first ever VHS Village meetup
Oh, no.
at the VHS Vista, we go to Disney, spend some time at Universal Studios, and we just have the time of our lives. You know?
Golly.
Jenna would be fine with that, right? Your first Disney experience being at the
Strangers?
90% Total Strangers?
Oh yeah,
Never met in real life?
Sure. Yeah, my kids are under 10. Love Disney. I doubt they have any interest in going.
Sorry, guys. Got to go to the meetup. Have fun at home.
Daddy's working.
Mamma mia. Danny, did you watch any movies this week before we get into our feature prezzo King Kong in just a bit?
I didn't, so let's move on to Proto. Long week.
Real tough.
It's all right.
I was
Real
getting
tough.
international shipping done. Can only make so many people happy at once.
Remnant suggests that you were just still recovering from Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Should have
It's
watched
possible.
that third time.
Pardo, what about you? Did you watch anything this week?
I did. I do have to start with last week, though. I forgot to mention that I began the Lean Journey
Oh, yeah.
last week.
Mm.
We are, as a reminder, we are doing another journey. We did the Alien Journey, which was over the course of 6 months. So we're doing a David Lean, where we're watching one of his movies for the next 5 months. And the month of March, the movie was Hobson's Choice, his movie from 1954. So I watched that. I gave it 3 stars. It's about a guy named Henry Hobson who owns, he's a shoemaker. He has 3 daughters who work for him. They're grown of wedding age. Is that a thing? And they are desperate to get married and out of under their father's thumb, because he is to put it lightly, a monster, pretty much. It's a funny movie. I mean, it's actually a really cute movie. There's a lot of humor to it, but the dude is he's pretty rough to his kids. But yeah, I had a great time. I know, Slim, you watched it too. What did you think?
I did. I just want to point out that Mikey said I stepped away. Is Proto summarizing Shrek right now? I enjoyed it. The restoration on HBO Max is really gorgeous. It was pristine, and I don't think it's been released on 4K, or maybe not even Blu-ray. But there's a Criterion version that looks pretty nice, I think. I liked it. It was fun. The one thing that I called out was the main lead female, the wedded age character, who was like she said she was 30, and Brenda DeBanzi, the actress, she was nearing 50 at the time of filming this movie.
I believe
and I said in my review, "Get it, girl," because I was complaining about this very thing in Mank, that movie that's been nominated for about 20 Oscars. I was just kind of annoyed that Gary Oldman is like 70 and he's playing a 30-year-old in that movie, and he gets away with it while they have to have all these young gals. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. Plus, I thought it was pretty fun.
How about the shot of him walking back from the bar where he's drunk, and the moon reflecting in those puddles? Man, it was like really gorgeous. This is kind of cool because, I haven't seen Lean's other movies, but I know, what he's kind of known for. And I feel like you kind of get a taste for that with just some of the shots that he had. So if anything, it just made me excited for the movies that we're going to watch coming up.
Mm-hmm. What's April's movie coming up if you want to join our Discord and watch along with us?
I think it's Bridge on the River Kwai.
My word.
My.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I've heard that name.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be big.
Did you watch anything else?
I did. So we covered Metropolis.
Mm.
So I went back to Fritz Lang and I watched his movie from 1931, came out 4 years after Metropolis, M.
Oh.
M.
Was this 4x3 again?
Another 4x3.
Right
That's four 4x3s for me in the month of March.
Unheard of.
I don't think it's ever been done in the month of
No.
March. M is about a serial killer who preys on young girls, and that's what it kind of revolves around. But what's cool about it is it doesn't actually focus so much on the killings or the serial killer. It's more about law enforcement and actually the crime syndicates trying to catch this guy, and the different just techniques and tools they use to make it possible during this time frame, which I found incredibly fascinating. Just using like what tech you would have at the time in terms of like phones and timers and watches and maps to try to have a manhunt where you could catch a killer without really having any details other than the victims. And again, this movie felt way ahead of its time. In some ways, it felt like a modern movie. I didn't feel like I was watching something, from the 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is, it's not silent. So it is in German, but it's not silent. But it's so it'll be different than Metropolis. And it's actually, it must just be on that cusp because there's moments where it's like dead silent. There's obviously no audio to back it up. And then it cuts to dialogue. But I gave it 4 stars. So
wow,
it was a good watch.
When you mentioned serial killer, it reminded me of that famous quote from the movie Replicant with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where he's like, "Think twice before you clone a killer."
Stupid.
Where did that come from?
God, you just wanted to do a voice.
Listen, I was hard into JCVD for a long time. His movies.
God.
I mean, he has an amazing physique. Obviously, he's an amazing dancer. Yeah. There's some scandalous videos of him dancing with women on YouTube that I'm not sure I recommend you finding out. But this just wanted to weasel that in there. Anything else you want to talk about?
The other one I'll mention is our friends over at the Cinenauts are covering Enter the Dragon this week. The Bruce Lee movie. I had never seen it.
Oh,
so I saw that it was on Netflix. So I popped that bad boy on.
Big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. What a ton of fun Enter the Dragon is. I had a great time. And this is my first Bruce Lee movie. Let me tell you something.
Tell me. Tell us.
Jenna was in the room with me and she was just on her iPad. But I said, Jenna, put the iPad down and look at this man's body. I could not get over what I was seeing in motion. Truly, like, this is the first time where I was just speechless. Like my jaw dropped at the sight of another man. And I felt something that I'd never felt before.
An awakening.
He's got like 0% body fat. It's unreal. It doesn't look human, but I also was drawn to his body while viewing. It was insane. What'd you think about the groin shots?
I love a good, you know what? if you're fighting for your life, everything's on the table. That's what I say. When this man's dead, he's not going to need his groin anymore.
Right.
So you can take
Kick
it out.
I was thinking the same thing. I rewatched it too. This Cinernauts episode, Enter the Dragon, our dear friend of the show from Bat and Spider, Chuck Forsman, is guesting on this episode. So when this is out, that episode will be out. So I fired it up too. And you know what? If you are in Mortal Kombat, I'd be going for ball shots constantly, probably. That'd be my number one move. Do or die time. You know? Wear a cup. None of these people could fashion a cup on that island out of anything.
Eyes on the ball shot.
We have to keep this train moving. We're going to be talking about King Kong 1933. And I referenced Proto's letterbox.com review. It's our favorite social media site, hands down. Spent a lot of time on that website looking at my friends' movie reviews, their ratings. We had a lively discussion in Discord today, pitting everyone's 1-star v 5-star reviews. Someone in our Discord, I'm not going to name names, was talking about how Avatar is like a 1-star movie. Jim Cameron's Avatar?
It's a shocker.
I felt like I needed to start gagging when I saw that in our Discord today.
Mm-hmm.
We were hovering over the delete Discord button
We had Discord reps on the phone
to remove it
asking them how to shut it all down. But we pressed on, and every week we give away a free year of Letterboxd Pro. So if you are a hardcore movie fan, movie lover, you can pay a few bucks, become a Letterboxd Pro member, get rid of ads, and a host of other sweet features like finding where your movies are streaming. So this week's winner of a year of Letterboxd Pro, Kevo Forever on IG. Congratulations,
Kevo.
Kev.
Congrats, Kev.
I just want to read some of his message. New listener with the Justice League episode.
Oh, wow.
So thank God we did that episode, obviously. Amazing movie. Jumped on with this episode. Not only are you guys great, but you made me a fan with the Trial of Tim Heidecker reference.
Oh, you just had
Looking
to.
forward to digging into your back catalog. The system works is all I want to say. And if you want to support Letterboxd just in general, and you want to upgrade to Letterboxd Pro or patron status, get a nice banner image behind your account, get that badge next to your name, you can do so at 20% off on 70mmpod.com. Before we get into King Kong, let's see what I watched this week that I want to touch on. Watched a lot. Maybe I'll talk about Denzel movie that I watched. Saw some buzz on Letterboxd from a few people that I follow on a movie from 2010. Denzel and Chris Pine called Unstoppable. You heard about this?
Excuse me?
Tony
You mean
Scott.
to tell me Denzel was in a movie called Unstoppable?
He not only is he unstoppable as an actor, as a force on screen, but the movie is called Unstoppable.
Wow.
Tony Scott directed this. You might know, rest in peace, Tony Scott. Top Gun, True Romance, Man on Fire, and you made The State, Crimson Tide, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Days of Thunder, Spy Game. Anywho.
Crimson Tide was my first rated R movie I saw.
How did it go?
I don't know.
That's the only piece
don't
of
remember.
information you retained. So Unstoppable, Denzel and Chris Pine are automotive employees. You know, they're just working the trains.
I'm tracking with that. Keep going.
And they're at odds a little bit to start the movie. You know, this young buck, Chris Pine, this son of a union boss, taking his job. They took her jobs. And they find out that a train is on the loose. And it's full of like toxic waste, essentially.
Of course.
And it's about to derail in a town. And someone's got to stop this train. I thought it was amazing. 4 stars. Loved it.
Oh my
Couldn't
God.
believe it.
What? What?
I was shocked. Tony Scott, I'm a big Tony Scott fan. I love Man on Fire. It's one of my fave movies. And if you don't love Man on Fire, you need to check yourself.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Rosario Dawson is in Unstoppable. She was amazing. Beck says Slim. What? Eric, OF, I've actually seen this movie. I know, I'm blowing minds right now. Listen,
Maybe
I'm
you have
trying
to
to
give it a chance.
I'm trying to dig into my watch list, make moves, make some headway, and that's what I'm saying right now. Check this movie out if you want a good time. I think it might be time for King Kong. 1933, Shame Month finale. I put a poll to the IG.
Let's hear
Have you seen King Kong 1933? 54% have not seen it.
it.
So similar to Metropolis, where the majority have not seen the movie, we're digging in, changing minds. Streaming on HBO Max. Marion C. Cooper, Ernest B. Schoedsack.
Excuse me?
1933. Proto, can you guide us down the Empire State Building to discuss King Kong?
Schoedsack, huh?
Think twice before you clone a killer.
Stupid. Oh, God.
Carl Denham, picture maker and risk taker extraordinaire, is out to make the most fabulous motion picture yet. Having found evidence of a mysterious island inhabited by a tribe and a beast of immeasurable size, Denham sets out with a crew to make his motion picture on the island. But little do they know what awaits. Kong, King of the Apes, the eighth wonder of the world. Fay Wray, would-be heroine of the film, is kidnapped by the people of the island and offered as a sacrifice to Kong. In an attempt to get everyone killed, Denham and the crew race after Kong and nearly get everyone killed. Thanks to smoke bomb technology, the crew decides to capture Kong and bring him back to New York City, where he can be put on display and generate some serious revenue for old Denham. But will Kong be okay with that? Or will he prove that love is stronger than steel? King Kong.
No, all-timer. Proto, I just thought you stepped up your game somehow for these intros the last few weeks.
Oh, thank you. I felt like I was mailing this one in.
No.
I appreciate that.
No way.
Holy moly. Mikey P says, redo your Rogue One intro. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. There's actually a t-shirt.
That
with
one went on
intro
a
it in
t-shirt,
the
Mike,
store.
and we can't.
Maybe just for you. I'll DM you, Mikey.
It's in print.
King Kong, 1933, 4x3, black and white. I'd never seen this movie. I'm part of the 54%. Danny, were you part of that as well?
I am. I even clicked that I didn't on the poll. So that's me. 54%.
Now, Proto, I guess the answer is obvious that you have not seen this, right? Since I think, was this your pick or was this Danny's pick?
It is my pick. Yeah.
You have or have not?
I had not.
Oh, wow. Holy moly.
Had you?
No.
Okay,
not.
so we're all on the same page.
We're on the same boat, and this is a fitting movie for us to dig into before Godzilla versus King Kong drops, I think next week by the time this comes out. I was pretty excited. I was like, man, you know what? I don't hear a lot of people talk about this movie. Never seen it. Time to dig in. First note that I have in this viewing, didn't take a lot of notes. They spend 6 weeks on this boat, this film crew, to go to Skull Island. 6 weeks on a boat. 1933. I would want to drown myself on this boat. Look at, the crew of this boat, the people in this crew, Denham. I would not want to be 6 weeks near any of these people. You would?
I would definitely spend 6 weeks on a boat going somewhere, babe.
Oh my God.
I don't know about this boat. This was like a cargo carrier. This looked like hell.
It's like cartons of fish under the bottom of that boat or something.
I need you guys to get adventurous, okay?
Not only that, but 6 weeks back, they kidnapped Kong. Where's he going on that boat? You know?
Movie magic.
Are they gassing him every day?
That's why he did one with throw the extra one. Gosh,
How
man.
about our girl Anne?
Send the text.
Can I come out from inside the boat? Like this poor girl. She's inside the boat for 6 weeks? Is that what we're led to believe?
Yeah.
Jack, please. I know it's you want to play hard to get with the girl that you love, but he put it on a little strong, wouldn't you say?
The first
Old
mate.
Jack? Yeah.
There's a line later in the movie that I specifically wrote down I think where he like says "I love you" to her later in the movie for the first time, and he's like,
Oh my God.
but Jack, you hate women. How, you love me? I was like, oh my God, 1930. What's happening right now?
Oh God.
What's on your list after I trash the boat in particular, Danny?
Well, I couldn't get. There's so much dialogue in this movie that is absolutely poorly written, and it's so much at the beginning of this movie that it was so hard to follow. And it's not only poorly written, it's really poorly performed, especially by Denham.
Oh,
Like, he's such a terrible actor. Like, I hope this was his first and last film for cinema's sake. I mean, he's dead now, so it's not going to get back to him.
rest in peace.
But holy cow, he was horrific.
He sounded like he was talking like he had a Tommy gun in his back pocket.
Right?
Like he sounded like a gangster in all of his lines. He was awful.
And everything he did was like, come on, guys, we're going to go this way. And he'd like do the long like arm swing. It was just,
Mhm.
Yeah.
oh, baby. It was tough to get into a place of enjoying this film.
It was so bad at the start that I thought that maybe there was some kind of meta thing going on where it's about this guy who's making a movie and they're making fun of making movies. But like very quickly you realize, no, this is just really bad. How about the scene where he goes to find Anne and he just grabs her
Yeah.
and says, what's he say? Something like, oh, there's a taxi. And just
Kidnaps her.
basically kidnaps her.
Mm-hmm.
What's your name?
And Daryl.
Fine. I've got a job for you. Costumes on the ship will fit you. Broadway shops are still open. I can get some clothes for you there. Come on.
What is it?
It's money and adventure and fame. It's the thrill of a lifetime and a long sea voyage that starts at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
This takes place, everyone, I guess, is jobless. They have no food. They're in line to get bread. And she's stealing, like an apple or an orange or something from a newsstand.
It's black and white, so you can't tell.
And some kind of circular object. And he is without a lead for his movie. So he just hits the streets. I'm going to find someone, see? We got to make this picture. And he finds this girl who is like starving to death and takes her into a taxi cab and whisks her away onto a boat. You are a scumbag, this guy, Denham. I wanted to punch him in the face the entire movie watching this thing.
Horrific.
The whole thing about her, this is taking place during the Great Depression, obviously, and just taking her. I mean, was she homeless too? I mean, she didn't have a care in the world about leaving for 6 weeks. She didn't really even tell anybody.
I don't know.
I was just so taken aback by that plot, and I know it's 100 years old, takes place during a certain period of time, but like, man, I was like, what is going on? So bizarre, right?
I felt like I had to kept telling myself this movie just had its like 88th birthday. Like, if I was seeing this in the 30s in the cinema, would it be that weird or that bad? So I don't know. It was in 2021. It's a hard watch.
Well, I think it's comparable to, where we get just bad acted action movies, this day. Like, look at any Michael Bay movie. Look at the Transformers, right? Like, they look good. You're excited to see Transformers on the screen, but the acting and the writing is terrible.
We're gonna get some letters about that.
I mean, I sat through all those Transformers movies. James was on a kick, so I had to get them all. The Last Night, Anthony Hopkins one, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Jeez Louise. Knights of the Round Table robots that have just been unearthed until like the 7th Transformers movie.
Let's get into it.
The one where they destroy Chicago is pretty good, though.
I can't. I couldn't. Let's, maybe before we get too overtly negative, I mean, a lot of negativity for me to get to by this movie. But the stop motion, King Kong himself. I adored the stop motion in this movie. I loved seeing Kong. I loved his face.
Goofy ass face.
It was like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer face mannerisms, in that short. What did you think, Danny?
I loved it. And what was impressive was I think every time it did it, where they would pass through. I mean, I meant to bring this up with you as well, but when they would pass through either Anne or another human, and it would go from film to stop motion in his hand or in his mouth, or that was impressive. Like it was obvious what it was, but it felt still like seamless how they did it, and even like the scale of things where she's on the log and T-Rex and Kong are fighting behind her. I mean, that fight was awesome. Like I couldn't get over how cool it was. So there were so many rad scenes. It was like smart choices too. Like when they killed the Stegosaurus and they were walking by its giant body. Like
that was smart. Yeah,
that was rad. How they would pan the camera with them, and the background was like it looked like they were walking past it.
But when they shot that Stegosaurus like 90 times and then 10 more times in the face,
and then they point blank in the head. And then the tail. Yeah. Oh, man. So goofy.
I love the idea that here you're on this island. You see a dinosaur that you wouldn't have thought existed. It looks at you. Give it to him, boys. And they just try to kill it. And then it's laying there. I couldn't get over the line. Denham goes, give him another one. It shoots him in the face. Like, what are they doing?
That was an R-rated moment in this movie. Like, if I had children watching this, I probably would have fast-forwarded through that shot. Them just, like, annihilating its face.
My gosh. The blood pouring out of T-Rex's mouth? The black blood? Oh, man.
Yeah, looked like jelly falling out of there.
So gross.
What'd you think of the stop-motion, Proto?
I loved it as well. And I know they still do stop-motion now. Mm-hmm. But I wish they would do it in this style, or almost have like a throwback movie in a similar way that they make video games now that are 8-bit, 16-bit that just mimic, an older style. And the thing is, like, watching this, it's old and there's ways to make it look better with modern tech, but it still looks great and it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sean and Chad is saying the ragdoll bodies. Oh my gosh. Amazing.
That's what I was going to bring up with.
When they're in the water and the, whatever that thing is, the Loch Ness is grabbing them and tossing them. I was dying with that.
The dummy budget in this movie was through the roof. Them just falling down from the logs also.
Yes.
Like they didn't care. Like this is what's happening in the scene. It's obviously dummies. But maybe that blew minds in 1930. What's the stop motion company that still produces now? What was the one like Orbo movie that came out?
Kubo. And the Kubo
Laka?
is Laka I think is what you're talking about. But Kubo is a phenomenal film. Like we should definitely do that at some point because it is gorgeous. And the stop motion feels seamless. Like it's just, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. The behind the scenes making of that film is mind blowing.
Proto, what else is on your list for Kong?
I liked, so the first 45 minutes of this is just pretty awful and boring and not interesting. But once you get 45 minutes in and they get to the island, it really picks up. And that's where the stop motion stuff happens. And it's a ton of fun. What you were saying about the dinosaurs, I remember from the 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong, there's a T-Rex fight in that, and it actually has the same thing where he actually kills the T-Rex in the same manner with like pulling back its jaw, and then with King Kong just like closing it to make sure like he's dead. And that was kind of cool to see this time and be like, oh, that was a complete just take from the original. And even just how cool it was to see how Kong would fight, where there's almost a point in every fight that he's in where you think he's going to lose, but then he figures out what he needs to do to win, and then he just like destroys whoever he's fighting. Yeah. And I haven't seen the original Godzilla vs. King Kong, so I am like so excited just to see Kong fight Godzilla and like whatever style he's going to use for that fight. Also, the other thing that's interesting about this, I read a little bit about it, how King Kong, his scale changes throughout the movie. And apparently that's like a normal thing in the
Really?
Kong movies. Because they say it's something like he's, I think there's periods where he's like 30 meters tall and then he jumps to 60. And then when he's in New York City, he's like 80. And then they say like in the newest Skull Island movie, he was a certain height, but now he's in the Godzilla versus Kong. He's going to be much bigger to match Godzilla's size.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that because I didn't get the trailer. Like, I didn't understand how Kong was all of a sudden bigger, as big as Godzilla. So, maybe
Smoke
there was a
bombs.
line in Skull Island that I just missed. Like, oh, he could adjust his mass. Ugh.
I think they just don't even care.
Don't they reference that he's young because of his dead family? Like those monsters that killed his family, whatever was on the island before him.
Oh, like he was like essentially like a child, maybe.
Yeah.
To start the movie, there's an overture with music playing, and then the credits actually were gorgeous. I thought
Oh my gosh.
the text, the
Insane.
font mark type,
Matt,
sizing, whatever you want to call it, the colorway. But I was kind of like begging for a restoration. It still looks old. Like we watched Hobson's Choice, and that is pristine and glistening. So I was like, oh man, I wish they had kind of like a restoration for this edition of the movie. It looked grainy, it looked old, which it is. It's 8
I
years
wonder
old.
how hard it is though, because there's moments in this where you see like what looks like the film is like rippling. Did you guys notice that? Like it got wavy at some points. And then like you could see, I would just wonder how hard it would be to actually, I don't know, make a 4K Dolby of this.
It wasn't me that said it for those playing along in the drinking game. I don't know if that counts.
I just can't imagine because it looks like whatever they have right now on HBO is pretty bad to work off of.
Yeah. I would imagine too that all the stop motion stuff, I wonder if that would just still look the same. They probably filmed that a little bit differently. Remember when we were talking about RoboCop 2, where they filmed the stop motion stuff in, what was essentially, I guess, like, 480p or something. So whatever version you're watching, it's going to not look as good as the other scenes. The parts where they bring him back to the city, I was just kind of confounded by the size of him, how they even get him into that theater. He was so huge, but if he can change his mass, I guess that answers that. The one scene I was chuckling at was when Jack rescues her and comes back. This is kind of like the trope from back then. He's instantly handed a bottle of like liquor. Like, oh, he's like near death, but this is
Here,
the
drink
medicine
this.
he needs. Like, oh, here you go, Jack. Take this. I just thought that was funny.
A lot of the stuff that I loved in this film the most was really a lot of the scenes where there were fog. And I know that might sound a little weird, but the shots in the jungle and the shots of the boat coming through the fog and initially you're taking off were absolutely gorgeous. Like I couldn't get over the layers of shots in that jungle. You had like like the foreground, the background, but there was still like, for a movie in the 30s with stop motion and live action, and it's all spliced in between, there was so much care in the whole surroundings of these scenes, which I couldn't get over. When Kong takes Anne to his like lair in the mountain, there's like this shot where Jack is kind of coming up as well, and there's like a waterfall, and I just it was gorgeous. Like I was super impressed with some of the shots, and I think my favorite shot of the film is actually my favorite sequence is I think it's either right after he kills T-Rex, but when he goes back and grabs that log with all the guys on it, I was incredibly impressed on how they did that with him, the stop motion ape grabbing the log with all 15 guys on it, and they weren't stopped. They were the live actors. Like I couldn't get over. I was like trying to visually see how they did that, and it was so impressive. That scene just shook me. I just couldn't get over it.
Yeah, that was so good because I didn't even really think of that. It was so well put together.
Yeah,
It didn't even hit me that, oh yeah, this is stop motion and those are real guys on this log.
There was a smart scene where she's tied up and he's like approaching the stand where she's offered as a sacrifice, and he's stop motion in the foreground, background, and she's closer. and she like falls forward off screen, and then he like appears holding the doll
Yeah.
of her. Like I
Yes.
like that stuff. The
It
kind
was
of
just
how they
really
transfer
clever.
things.
Yeah, some really clever stuff.
Some of the villagers have reviews for this movie. Let me see. I just want to read a few of the V'ger cuts. Pop Fenton says, I'd watch a supercut of all the stop motion all day. Where's John's? I just saw it and it made me chuckle. Every human in this film sucks shit. Weirdest episode of Seinfeld ever, Mike says. I'll read one more. Let's see. Neil, 90% of the dialogue in this movie is Fay Ray screaming,
Holy
Kong
cow.
roaring, or sailors shouting some variations on "Come on, fellas." The Fay screaming.
Kill
I mean,
me.
Fay, come on. Can we cut the screaming back by maybe
Holy
80% of this movie? Right?
There was even a scene for her to practice screaming. It was
God.
amazing. So much screaming.
It was too much.
Love a good scream.
I mean, it was a good scream. But holy cow.
I mean, yeah, I would scream, but as an audience member, let's cut it back a bit. You know, I'm going deaf. What else on your list, Proto?
We mentioned it earlier, but when Kong first appears and they do that close up of his face and it's clearly a different puppet. Oh boy, I was getting Harry and the Hendersons vibes
I knew it.
from that face, and I was not prepared to see that. And I was taken aback, but I was also laughing hysterically just at the sight of him because he looked. I mean, it looks super goofy now, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
It's just like a lot of fun. But yeah, that face. This is definitely going on my subhuman list.
He also has that
pictures of-
smile. Like he had a smile at one point where he's
Yeah.
looking at Faye and it's zoomed in on his face.
Mhm.
Holy cow. Now you brought up the Kong ride at Universal, and
Mhm.
I have early like childhood memories of riding that ride and thinking anytime I was going to go to New York, it could happen. Kong could attack. And in this film, so in the ride on Confrontation, you ride in like it's like a subway car, but it's suspended.
Mhm.
And when he in the New York scene right before this, when he attacks that like over the train car, I was like getting like nervous. I was like, oh God, this is exactly what I thought would happen.
Now, was the Universal ride, I guess, technically based on the 70s movie? Or did it not relate
It was
to
like
the 70s movie
it was
at all?
its own kind of story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't really based on anything, just kind of Kong attacking New York.
So as the reviews were coming in from the Discord, there was a lot of, like, I hadn't watched it by that point yet, but everyone was kind of calling out the problematic nature of this movie. And I had no clue what anyone was talking about. I don't even remember anything about this movie, except for maybe like an Oscar award show supercut of like Kong's arm going into the room. That was all I knew about this movie. But there is, you know, the metaphors for race in this movie. It's 1933. Black men, you know, around this time are King Kong from a white lens.
Mm.
You know, they thought that black men were obsessed with stealing our white women. You know, even the locals on the island were kind of problematic in and of itself, but they steal her for Kong. They offer like 6 women in place of one white woman. Like they try to make a trade. So then we capture Kong from his natural habitat, put him in chains, and we put him on display, like in literal chains, and show how like we're better than Kong. So I was pretty much out of the loop on all of this Safe Space. And as soon as the reviews came in, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. So I can see, so I actually was thinking of my dad when I was watching this movie. I was like, I wonder if my dad's a movie buff. And I was like, I wonder if my dad caught any of this seeing this movie. I meant to call them today to find out, but to be honest, it was like lost on me until someone pointed it out. And now when you think about it, when you're like, oh yeah, dum-dum, it's pretty obvious. But, you know, Proto, did you have any vibes when you were watching it or seeing any of the reviews came in? Because I think you posted a few articles in the Discord about it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of had a similar, I think, experience as you, is where, you know, people are saying there's things problematic with this. And I'll be honest, like, I didn't really like catch that at first as I was watching it. But then as I thought about it and read about it, I was like, okay, this makes sense. But I think I get like, I had some thoughts about that. So like with King Kong, my first experience was the Peter Jackson movie in 2005. And then it was Skull Island last year. So through both of those, I was ignorant of the racial history and like the context of King Kong. And even as I was watching this one, it was easy for me to ignore the racial stereotypes or the personifications that take place. And I think that's because the film itself, I think it's implicit rather than being explicit about these things. At least that's how it feels to me. But I think it feels that way because, like, as a white guy, I can be like tone deaf to this kind of stuff. Like when I see it, I'm just thinking like, this is a movie about a giant gorilla. But also I think that's because that's the advantage that like white people have when they watch like movies like this. Like I can be tone deaf as I watch King Kong because I'm a majority. Like I don't have to see, like I never see myself in movies because like I don't have to. Like white characters aren't me. They are just characters. As a white person, I have the privilege of being tone deaf while I'm watching King Kong. Whereas, you know, a minority or someone who has been disenfranchised in some way, when they see representation in a movie, they are seeing themselves, you know, in some way. So that is them. And when a filmmaker is making a statement about them, whether they like it or not. And I think that can be like like a severe disconnect for white people, and why I could like watch something like this and be like, you know, like what's the issue? Because I'm like as a person who has had so much representation, it's not even an issue or like something I even think about or that's on my radar. So I was kind of, I think like that's like my takeaway watching this is like how easy it is for me in my position to just like it not even matter.
Thank you, Proto.
I think you're 100% right. It's easier for us, you know, the big quote us, to just kind of just watch it and not see it. So when Boom, co-host of the Cinenauts podcast, I just wanted to call out her review because I thought it was pretty good. And there was a great discussion in Discord as well, just in general about the movie and some helpful links. So again, by all means, join our Discord. Boom didn't even rate it. I'll read from her review. I won't rate this because its ideologies are trash and contributed to putting into motion some horrific, degrading tropes in cinema that have yet to be fully shaken to this day. People always talk about the effects for this film. They're groundbreaking and pretty awesome. I won't deny that. I really enjoy the adventure element of the story and the idea of it being the early days of filmmaking and having this ambitious director pushing boundaries and discovering new ways to elevate the movie-making experience. It's also kind of ironic because that's what the film was in real life. It's a clever story, too bad it's dripping in colonialism. So this is just one of those cases where it's just very helpful to seek other perspectives. You know, like if we didn't have the Discord, I would probably just watch this movie and be like, this sucks. Yeah. Move on. Spoilers to my review, my rating. And I probably wouldn't even think anything of it unless I saw a review from someone I knew that called this out. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, Danny, or I think you said you agreed with Proto.
Well, I definitely agree with Proto. I mean, Proto said exactly how I feel. Just he said it better than I could. So thank you for that, Proto. I agree with you, Matt, because I didn't get to watch Kong until today. And so I had all week of seeing the Villagers reviews come in, And I'm grateful for that because I watched it from a lens. It's funny because I watched it waiting for to see the racist tones in this. And it wasn't there for me. Like I messaged the two of you right when I was done. I'm like, because of how much racism was talked about in reviews, and I get finished and I'm like, oh crap, I didn't see anything. Like, this is my white privilege. I know that. And I didn't see what anyone was talking about. And that's why I DM'd you guys and I said, what are you going to talk about? Talking about the racist tones in this, because I don't have any notes on it. So I was worried. And so I had to do a lot more Googling and to read about it. And so I am grateful to be able to have these voices in our Discord and Village and with you guys, and to see things that I wouldn't necessarily have seen through, my white male gaze.
Even the most helpful thing to do is to just consider other perspectives. So again, super grateful for the other perspectives on Kong, and obviously read up and see, how it impacts other people that don't look like you. And Carl Denham is still a dirtball, and I wanted to punch him in the face the whole movie.
A question came through in the Discord while we were talking. Was Peter Jackson's version less problematic?
I don't remember.
And I had read that he changed. The only thing that I read was he changed the location of where Kong was. He wasn't in Africa or close. It was like in the South Seas or something. And I read a commentary that said, if you change the location, then obviously there was a problem with where it was originally or something like that. But I don't know if he caught as much heat. I don't know. I actually have never seen it.
Beauty killed the beast. That's the only thing I remember that dumb movie.
Right,
Jack Black's delivery of that line.
I have two more things. One, outside of everything we just talked about, I loved Kong in New York. Those shots were super rad. I loved seeing the wide shots of him climbing the Empire State Building. I laughed so hard when Jack was like, I know what we should do, guys. Send up planes.
Oh my God. None of those idiots thought of using aeroplanes in that moment. And Jack has to come in and save the day. Suggesting.
Absolutely incredible.
Unbelievable.
But it was laughable. But man, the shots of Kong on top of Empire, swatting at the planes, taking the bullets, and then leading into his death. You can't tell me Kong falling off the Empire State Building and hitting the concrete below, and his body still lay there in one piece.
No.
It would be a pancake mess of blood down there.
You were right, too, about the scenes of the Empire State. Oh, my God. Famous. Sean, it's funny you might post the Simpsons meme, but I said to Amanda before I fired it up, I was like, now I'll finally be able to see the OG version of all the Simpsons homages from that episode where Burns finds King Homer. The shot of the Empire State Building and New York City to start that entire thing, that was gorgeous.
Yeah, super rad.
Holy moly.
I really loved it.
All right, so you got your final thoughts in. My final rating for King Kong, 1933, OG. I'm 2 stars.
Oh my, holy cow.
Did not enjoy it. I found the characters insufferable. Just about every character I found just get away from me. I don't want to hear from you anymore. Technical aspects aside, that are actually included in that 2-star review.
Say.
Stop motion's amazing. The camera trickery, a lot of fun, but I was just bored. Doesn't hold up for me at all.
Wow,
even the obvious racial overtones included in that as well. So, Prado, what about you?
I thought the first 45 minutes of this was a 1-star movie, but I really had a fun time in the last hour. Some of my other thoughts, I know, Danny, you were talking about just the New York City stuff. Probably my favorite shot is when he's up on the top of the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
I always
maybe.
thought that was kind of like a silly thing when I've heard of it, King Kong on top of the Empire State Building, but I thought that shot looked amazing. I actually felt almost like queasy to my stomach just imagining being that high on a building, just that landscape shot. Also, I had this thought, what about a King Kong movie where he takes over New York and he's been living there for 10 years and he's just like decimated the city? Can we get that made?
The new Skull Island.
Uh-huh.
Just
Manhattan.
resting on some skyscrapers.
I need it.
King of New York. Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
So yeah,
Holy crap. Are we producing
and
this?
if someone hasn't seen this before, I recommend the Prote cut, which is you can start at the beginning and then just watch as much until you can't stand it anymore, and then just skip to the 45-minute mark and then just watch it from there. So overall, I give it 3 stars. Like, I did enjoy it. It has, it's problematic. The beginning's terrible, but I love the stop motion, the beast fighting. I loved it.
Danny, take us home.
I'm actually really glad we watched this. We have Kong versus Godzilla coming up this week. So I'm glad we checked this off. The stuff I loved kind of outshined the stuff that I hated. I was with Proto. The first 45 minutes is insufferable. It's horrific acting. The dialogue is terrible. But once you get to the island, you get the stop motion, you get the dinosaurs and Kong and the jungle, and then you get back to New York. It's pretty incredible work. I mean, they did some great things. So I'm right there with Proto. This is 3 stars for me. It's good. Nothing to write home about. And I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Wow. When was the last time I was the lowest rated one?
Every
We
other
get
episode.
Gabe to confirm.
Crunch the numbers.
Crunch the numbers. Ian, former producer of the show, now disgraced, said Proto just described Planet of the Apes when you described Kong taking over New York City. I guess that's the spoiler for the future movies.
Anyway,
sorry, I thought Proto maybe had thoughts, but I guess not.
Oh, I don't see how that's, I mean, they both are about an ape, I guess, but this one's much bigger. I'm not really sure what Ian's getting at, but.
Remnant says I was the lowest for Mr. Nobody, so it is fairly recent where it has happened. All right, so we have to get to some voicemails before we announce next week and next month. Officially, it's big. It is
Big.
a bag. You can leave us a voicemail or a letter using the links on 70mmpod.com. So by all means, check it out. Let's see. We got a letter here coming in hot from Anthony. Let me start this email off by saying I personally enjoyed The Man of Steel, enjoyed Batman vs. Superman, actually own copies of both of them, even though I can't remember much about the theatrical version of Justice League. I don't remember hating it. I think I saw it more as a missed opportunity. With that said, here are my thoughts on the Snyder cut of Justice League. Cut. Great movie, too long, should have been shorter. First 2 hours need to be tightened. Combine those 2 hours into one. Trim up the last 2 hours. Get this movie down to about 3 hours, maybe 2 hours, 45 minutes. And to me, that would make this movie epic. I gave it 4 stars, watched it over a couple days. The first 2 hours were a slog to get through, but the last 2 hours were amazing. Glad you guys picked it and talked about it. It made me take the time to check it out. Looking forward to King Kong. Great movie, created many special effects that are still being used to this day. Thanks again for running a great podcast. Thanks again for giving me a year of Letterboxd Pro. You guys have gotten me back into watching movies, and I can't say thanks enough for that. You also need to dive into Chinatown sometime. Should be a part of Shame Month.
Here we go. You know it's coming.
It's Chinatown. When I was writing screenplays, it was the one I studied often. And if Slim hasn't seen Slacks with 2 X's on Shudder, he should. Before I go, Apocalypse Now, one of my favorite Vietnam movies. Glad you guys enjoyed it and reviewed it. Cheers, Anthony AWR72 on Letterboxd.
Can I say one thing about the DC movie Justice League Snyder Cut? If you're coming into it and you're thinking, man, 4 hours, this is long, because I still disagree with the people complaining about it being long. It's broken up into 6 chapters. Take your time.
Get them.
Watch a chapter at a time. You don't have to rush this thing. You don't have to watch it in 4 hours in one sitting. Okay?
Get him.
That's all I have to say. Thank you for the email.
Chris, in dog years, I'm not sure if he's here tonight. He sent, if I may, send my review for Kong. So I have it here. This is in dog years from the Discord. In this movie, King Kong is shown to be about 50 feet tall, about 8x the size of an average gorilla. I found that a fully grown silverback gorilla can bench press around a staggering 4,000 pounds, though I'm not sure how they know this unless they somehow manage to get a gorilla to put up a few reps. I'll have to remember to YouTube this later. So anyway, let's assume that Kong can bench around the ballpark of, say, 32,000 pounds. These morons hooked him down with 3 chains, called it a day, and packed the house full of spectators. Not even a single stupid big game Van Pelt from Jumanji-looking hunter with a tranquilizer gun on the ready. On top of that, he was hopped up on some 1930s sedative, which, if we're being honest, was some mixture of morphine, alcohol, and cocaine, and shook him awake in a hostile environment. Tell me how they would have handled King Kong taking a shit, let alone breaking out of his 3 goddamn chains.
They were chrome steel.
Dummies. The whole lot of them.
Yeah, and then you drag Anne in front of him just to get
The
him.
love of his life.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, put your arm around her. See? Let's get a nice photo right in front of the monster, huh?
This is how it
Bunch of
talks, eh?
Denim needs to wake up.
All right, we got 2 voicemails tonight before we get to our big announcement.
What's up, 70mm? It's Mike. I wanted to call in about the prequel to the Nintendo Donkey Kong series, King Kong, 1933. Really excited to see what the discussion's going to be about, especially about how this movie ties into the video game series. So look forward to hearing your discussion about that. But I wanted to talk about the movie. I wanted to talk mostly about how like the first half hour of this movie was probably the most interesting, engaging part of the entire film that really sucked me in and kept me watching. If only because the dialogue was snappy, just the straightforwardness of everything and every character was great. You know, until we get to the island and meet the ship's captain, with all of the very extremely racist 1930s era caricatures of people. This movie was pretty solid besides that. I will say, the claymation was great. All of the action sequences, were fantastic with the claymation. I think what really sold this movie was how well the actors delivered seeing these monsters that were clearly not there. I think that was fantastic. Like the Stegosaurus scene where it gets killed and they walk by and are talking about it, that was great. But otherwise, this movie was 3.5-star movie, and I'm glad that someone picked it because otherwise I would have never watched this. The end of the movie was very long and very loud, and overall, this was probably the loudest movie I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, thanks for picking this so I could experience it. Catch you guys later.
Thank you, Mike.
It was a loud movie.
Unbelievable. 3.5 stars for Mike.
Surprised by that, honestly.
Jake in chat says, I must have watched the wrong movie. If you're looking for a comics podcast in your life, by all means, don't forget to check out Mike's podcast, the I Read Comic Books podcast. Last voicemail of the night. Let's get to it right meow.
What's up, 70mm? It's Wes. My voice is much better this week. Thanks for asking. Not sure what was going on last week. Anyway, just thought I'd drop a quick VM, at least by my standards, to say thanks for picking this movie. There's plenty of uncomfortable truths about King Kong that need to be addressed more widely, and you've created the space to do that, so thanks again. When I first watched this back in January, I think it was, the racist tropes depicted made for really uncomfortable viewing at times, yet I couldn't fully articulate my thoughts on it. But the villager discussions in the Discord this week have been truly, truly enlightening, so props to you all for building such an open-minded, supportive community of smart, articulate and thoroughly decent people. For what it's worth, I find it impossible to land on a concrete rating for this film. On the one hand, it's a total 5-banger in terms of story, adventure, suspense, and of course those incredible technical elements, but on the other, it's steeped in racist symbolism that only becomes more abhorrent when you place it in the context of the history at the time, and the latter should never be erased when talking about the former, especially when those two things are so intrinsically linked. I've seen a lot of people dump on this film for its acting. However, to that I would just say, it's 1933, guys. Can we just adjust those expectations? Fay Wray is the OG Scream Queen. Show some respect, please. Anyway, cheers again, guys. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Who knows if she even was able to scream again for the rest of her life after this movie?
I actually didn't mind Faye. I thought she was good when she wasn't screaming.
It's hard to adjust my
VM, Wes.
expectations when I've been watching Fritz Lang, who was making movies at the same time.
It's true. It's very true.
I forgot to say, well, first of all, thanks, Wes, for the VM. Very nice. I agreed I didn't mention it, but I did enjoy the story itself. It's a genius story idea overall. All right, I think that is it for this week. Now, this is the end of the month. So Shame Month is officially over. We marinated on some things. I got a DM from a villager who's been quiet so far tonight, I think. Forrest, with a suggestion on the next month. And that would be a month. He just shot out a name for it. Blockbusted month. Or you could call it box office bombs. Movies that underperformed compared to their expectations. So Proto has exhaustively prepared a list of movies that fit under this bill. It's like 100 and some movies he put together. So just to rattle off some examples of what we're talking about. Tenet, Heaven's Gate, one of the biggest bombs in history. If you grew up watching movies, you know about that movie. Battlefield Earth. Sahara, Matthew McConaughey.
Bombs.
Titan AE. Remember that movie? Wrinkle in Time. So those are just some of the movies. Did any of those jump out at you? You don't have to reveal a pick for the future. It's my pick. But I'm just curious.
Well, I remember talking about Heaven's Gate last year at some point, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And apparently, there was that changed Hollywood in some way. So I was interested in that. I mean, The Postman, Kevin Costner. Come on.
Oh my gosh!
Can you imagine returning to Costner for The Postman?
There's also that Keanu Reeves movie, 47 Ronin, that came out the other year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about it, but Keanu.
This is the reason why I brought up Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within too. I remember that coming out and the CGI at the time being mind-blowing, but that was like the end of Sony's experimentation with CGI movies right after that. Jupiter Ascending, Treasure Planet, Wind Talkers. So these are just a few potential options. So I have my pick already for next week.
Me too.
You do?
Week. Not for next week.
Okay. All
But
right.
I have my movie picked.
So next week, I felt like this. I saw a movie that jumped out at me on this list.
Oh,
Box
baby.
office bombs, Blockbusted. It's time to right a wrong in the
If you say
history
Shrek,
of
I
this
swear to God.
show. Is Shrek on here?
I don't know.
No.
It's a bomb in my heart.
It's time to right a wrong. I have chosen a movie by the name of Speed Racer
oh my
from
God.
the Wachowskis.
There it is.
You did it.
This has been oft looked over in our voting. It has never gotten the vote
Okay.
to win its place as a feature prezzo on this show. But it's time.
Have you
We're
seen
doing
it?
it. I've never seen it. Never seen it.
Is there a
I saw
4K of this?
Oh, yeah, there has to be. I saw this IMAX 3D and I was a changed man. I'm ready.
This movie in 4K would be ridiculous.
Is this available? Letterboxd isn't even loading now.
We broke
crashed the
Letterboxd.
servers. I can't even see. I'm getting the error pages now. So I hope that's available in 4K. I don't know if it is, but I know it's not streaming. So this is going to have to be a rental.
You don't own this already, people?
If you don't own this, myself included,
It's at
wake
Goodwill.
up.
Go to your
Okay.
local Goodwill.
I'll hit
Dollar.
up the Goodwill for a VHS if I have to. So this is a big month. We're going to be choosing our movies from this list that Proto has meticulously poured over. He was looking up websites. He's like making notes. He's writing down in his notepad, looking up, looking down, looking up, looking down. So I'm excited.
When are you guys watching Kong vs. Godzilla?
When does that come out? Next Friday? From earlier in the
It's
week?
the 31st.
Friday the 31st. Let's see. That's probably going to be a mid-afternoon watch for me.
I mean, I'm just saying because I'm seeing it in a private screening in a theater this week.
Oh, my God. You know,
Just saying.
famous artist Danny Haas getting
You know?
invited to in-theater screenings of Godzilla vs.
Special
Kong.
treatment.
I do what I can.
I'm going to be
Oof.
sitting on my lazy boy
Nice.
with my feet up, maybe eating some carrots and hummus
The wife and child, hopefully.
with my family, 2 dogs. Preto, what about you? How are you going to watch that movie?
I'll probably be watching it on my phone before I pass out after putting my kids to bed on a night.
Just be
next
careful
week.
it doesn't drop on your face.
Thank you.
Do you have any thoughts to close us out this week?
Any thoughts? King Kong, he's big. He's a big deal. I'm glad that we take on things that are small, take on things that are big, and that we do it together.
We'll see everybody next week for Speed Race You.
Speed Racer.
We'll see everybody next week for Speed Racer. Love you. Goodbye. $70mm is a VHS Village production, featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, provided by Protolexis. Producer Emeritus, Dale_A. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. And you can support our Patreon for access to our Discord to talk movies with other villagers, get early access to episodes, discounts on merch, and a physical membership card mailed to you. If you would like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to pro or patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links on 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.